Welcome back to the Weekly Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Tom McCullough, with my co-host, Christian Tabor, with a very special guest. We have Aaron here from the Dolphins Insider podcast. How you doing, Aaron?
Doing well, guys. Thanks for having me. It's my first collaboration podcast, so excited to work with you guys.
Yeah, we've collaborated with a couple people before, but we never had someone else who had their own podcast. Like we interviewed someone from UB's football team, and then a couple of my friends from around the states that have followed different teams, but this is the first time we've ever collaborated with someone who has their own show of sorts. So we're going to have the links to your stuff in the description, so like your Instagram, your Spotify, if there's anything else you want, we put down there. Awesome. But yeah, we for the past couple weeks we've done this build-up thing where we've done covering each division. So we did the whole NFC. This past week we did AFC North, West, or AFC North, West, and South, and now this week, since you're a Dolphins podcaster, we're both Bills fans, we're going to do the AFC East in one kind of mega episode by itself.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Any words, sidekick of the month?
Are you referring to me?
Yes.
Is that what you're referring to me as? No, I'm good after that. Thanks so much.
I like to bully him a lot on the show. It's fun.
Yeah, I see the sidekick.
I referred to him last week as the Ryan Mallett to my Tom Brady.
Oh, that's disrespectful.
Okay, so we're gonna open up with the Jets. We're gonna go over their receivers first. So right now, according to ourlads.com, their depth chart is Brashad Perriman, Denzel Mims, and James Crowder as the starters, with backups of note of Chris Hogan, Braxton Berrios, and Jehu Chesson, which is probably going to be the final six on the roster.
Right.
Thoughts, opinions?
I think the wide receiver core definitely took a loss with Robbie Anderson. I know he was like their speed guy last year, and Adam Gase really tried to get him involved heavily. If you're looking at overall in the AFC East, I don't think they have the strongest wide receiver core. I'm excited that they brought in Brashad Perriman as a wide receiver. But Jamison Crowder, I think, is going to have to be their go-to guy. Really stretch the field down for Darnold, maybe even work him in the slot, check downs. I think the yards after catch would be important for him. But I think he's definitely the strongest wide receiver they have on the roster.
Yeah, I know Robbie Anderson was more like the deep threat guy, and now they kind of replaced him with a rookie third rounder. And then Brashad Perriman, who I looked it up before we started recording, he was like 665 yards on the Bucs last year, which is respectable. And then James Crowder definitely was good against. I know he was good against the Bills last year. He definitely got open. I think he had like a 90-yard receiving game week 1 against the Dallas Cowboys. He was doing really good. So he's definitely good, but like he's probably their best receiver just overall. I still don't trust Perriman just because he's gotten hurt a lot in his career, and Mims is a rookie that struggled to get separation in college, so that sometimes doesn't translate to the NFL that well.
Well, I'm excited to see what Perriman can do because, like you said, he was in Tampa Bay, had a pretty moderate season. But when you got guys like Chris Godwin, Mike Evans down there, and they were both 1,000-plus yard receivers, so he was kind of overshadowed. Transitioning to the Jets offense, he has more of an opportunity to kind of be a number 1 or number 2 guy. So he definitely could be a under the radar breakout candidate.
Yeah, I mean, I would take him in fantasy, but like probably if you had like a pickup that week and you're like, oh, Jets are facing, I don't know. Someone who I don't know.
Maybe it's a bad team.
Right.
I would take a chance. I follow a Jets page, and they were showing like highlights and stuff and all the stuff that he could do, and he looks really promising. Like, I'm looking forward to him a lot. I wish Chris Hogan ended up being better than how he is. I wish he like reached his full potential so much. I like him so much, but he's just
at this point he's like Frank Gore. He's gone to every single AFC East team except for one.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Gore went to the Dolphins, Jets, and the Bills. Now Hogan was on the Bills, Patriots, and now Jets. So now we just need to swap those two, get all 4.
Yeah, and Chris Hogan did some good things when he was with New England. So I think he kind of brings a good veteran presence to the wide receiver room. But you mentioned Frank Gore. That's one of the big assets I think they signed this year because he does have a relationship with Adam Gase from his time in Miami. And Gase loved to just pound the ball with him, and even though he's like one of the oldest guys in the NFL, he is a tremendous runner. So having him behind Le'Veon Bell will be a great 1-2 punch combination.
Yeah, he kind of roasted the Bills earlier this week by saying that the Bills do enough, he would have won 1,000-yard rusher. So I don't know how true that is, but I just read that and I was like, oh, So now we're roasting our rotations. Got it. Speaking of running backs, so you said you got Le'Veon Bell starter, Frank Gore at backup. Then he drafted Michael P. Ryan, I believe, in the 4th round. And they have Josh Adams, who is a second-year man out of Notre Dame. So, yeah. I mean, you only really need 3 or 4 running backs on a roster in general, and you only really need 2 of them to play through a game. You don't really rely on your 3rd and 4th backs as much.
Right.
I don't know.
Like I said, I think Le'Veon Bell definitely has to be utilized a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Gase has that reputation for being the quarterback guru, and I think he's definitely in the hot seat this season, especially with Tom Brady being out of the division and him being so keen on trying to unlock Sam Darnold's potential. So I think that was an issue last year. He tried to focus so much on Darnold and the receiving core that Bell just didn't get enough carries, wasn't utilized so much. But if Gase can give Bell the workload, and like I said, you got a great backup veteran presence in Frank Gore, it really can be a dangerous run game. But I think the building block that stands in the way of that is just Adam Gase.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of him, I've been told, but I'm also not the biggest fan of Le'Veon Bell in general either, since he came back after the whole holdout thing.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm sorry. You say you're not a huge fan of Adam Gase?
No, I mean, I know he was with the Dolphins, so I kind of was wondering what your opinion on him was, because when he was on the Dolphins, I was like, he's probably an okay coach. And then when he went to the Jets after that first year, I was like, after actually that offseason when they were all the stupid decisions with the whole GM getting fired I'm like, and then he was like, oh, we just signed this running back to a huge deal, and now I want to trade him before he even plays a game with us because I don't want to play a running back. I was so lost on what he was trying to accomplish.
Yeah, with Adam, I think I was very excited when we first signed him. I forget what year he even started, but I know coming from Denver, and he had that quarterback guru reputation. He did some great things with Peyton Manning, but he batted heads with guys like Jarvis Landry so much. And then the whole thing that just went down with Jamal Adams, he had negative things to say about him. And it seems like a lot of players feel like he's not that locker room leader, very egotistical, tough to work with. But then you get a guy like Ryan Tannehill, who on Instagram posted this big thank you, shout out to him. He said he learned the most under him. He was a great guy. So it's really mixed messages. But from what I've seen from him, he just isn't fit to be a head coach. I think he would do much better going back as an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, probably.
What do you think, sidekick?
Now everyone's referring to me as sidekick. Great. Yeah, I agree. I wasn't the biggest fan. But yeah, I agree that he should just go back to being offensive coordinator because I think that's what suits him best. I think head coach is just too much wishy-washy with everything.
You guys read some of the crazy stories about him?
Oh, yeah. Have you seen what he does when he gets on smelling salts?
The smelling salts. He left his wife right after she gave birth. All those
Jesus.
Windows in his office. You guys didn't hear that story?
I didn't hear that one.
It was something like his wife was in the delivery room. She gave birth, I think, to their son or a daughter, whatever it was. And the doctor said, do you want to cut the umbilical cord? And he said, nah. And then he said to his wife, are you good? And then he went back to practice or something. Which I thought was just completely savage. I felt so bad for his wife. But I mean, there's stories like that, the smelling salts. He's in his office all the time. He was, I think when he was with Miami, he lived across the street from his offensive coordinator. He would call him or go knock on his door without even telling him at 3:00 in the morning. It's he's works so hard but doesn't get the results. So yeah. He's an interesting dude.
One of the reasons he have not gotten results in New York so far has been probably because of the offensive line. Who going to that, we have Mekhi Becton at left tackle. I think he was 11th overall pick, I believe. Alex Lewis left guard. Connor McGovern, who came over from Denver at center. Greg Van Roten at right guard, and George Fant at right tackle. With a lot of these starters are noted as backups for the other positions, but the only one I'm really seeing that's of note is Chuma Doga at right guard, Cameron Clark left guard. So not the greatest. Not the greatest.
Yeah, I honestly don't even really recognize most of those names. When it comes to the offensive line, it's you try to get the 5 best guys. They might not be the best players, but you try to find the 5 best who play well together. And historically with Adam, with his time in Miami, that's one of the issues he never figured out is finding the right combination at the offensive line position to protect the quarterback. But And like you said, the Jets, just from the names you read off, it's not really a solidified line. It's one of the positions where a lot of injuries happen, so they're probably going to have to go in deep into their depth chart for that, which probably spells trouble for Sam Darnold. But if they can find 5 elusive guys who play well together, I think Darnold has the potential to rise up in his third year if they find the right combination of guys.
As long as he doesn't get knocked out by a disease again.
Yeah, and that too. Yeah, absolutely.
To fill you in a little bit, Mekhi Becton, rookie left tackle, biggest concern coming out of college was that he was raw, which is never what you want to hear coming out of your starting left tackle you drafted in the first round. Alex Lewis, I believe, was a pinch starter, swing man for the Ravens. Connor McGovern was actually a pretty decent center for the Broncos. He just came over. I looked him up in PFF. I think he has like an above average rating. Greg Van Roten was a guard for the Panthers. They got rid of him once they brought in Andrew Norwell. And then George Fant was the first round pick the Seahawks signed, or not first round pick. Oh yeah, they drafted in the first round. He was a tight end at the start of college, and he switched offensive tackle. And all the jokes about how Seattle had a terrible offensive line, mostly because of him.
Gotcha.
So
well,
yeah,
it seems like they have some potential, but it seems like an inexperienced, troublesome group of guys.
a little bit.
Especially in their depth. Like on here, I'm looking at ESPN's, and then their second at left tackle is Connor McDermott, which Bills fans know him well, and he's not good.
No.
So to have him as a second when we had him as
Like a
not on the
fourth.
roster
Oh wow.
is not promising.
And that
at
was
all.
he got cut from the roster the year Josh Allen was a rookie when he got killed like multiple times. So
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't trust their, like you said, depth is very, very important with the offensive line, and the fact that their depth is cast-offs from other teams, and then the starters just playing in depth roles for the other starting roles doesn't bode well for them. I think they have like a total of like 10 offensive linemen, which is not enough. So the final position we got to talk about on offense, quarterback, we have Sam Darnold, Joe Flacco, David Fales, James Morgan, and Mike White. James Morgan was another 4th-round pick this past year at FAU. A lot of people were really shocked they drafted a quarterback at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sam Darnold, he has the potential to be really good, and I want to see him do really good. But not if he was on any other team, he'd probably be doing a lot better than he is now. Just because they have failed to bring in pieces like for Miami, they got Tua now. They still have receivers like Devontae Parker, and they are trying to build up their offensive line with the guys they drafted this year, and bring in pieces like Matt Breida to give him talent on. Buffalo Bills bring in Stephon Diggs, build up the offensive line. Denver Broncos draft Drew Lock, get Jerry Jeudy, have Cortland Sutton, build the offensive line. They do all the right things. They did the opposite. They went draft a quarterback, wait a year to see if he can make all of our crappy pieces better, and then start drafting good pieces while he's already kind of broken.
Yeah, I think just like you said, they went about the operation in the completely opposite direction. And he had his big mono thing last year, which was funny, but absolutely killed him. I mean, good for he's a young quarterback in the NFL, enjoying himself. Can't blame a guy for that. But obviously, it cost him a lot of games. When I look at Sam Darnold, some of his decision making is questionable. I think his pocket presence. I mean, all around he needs to be improved. And like I said, I just don't think Adam Gase is the right guy to completely get him there. But he has had glimpses of hope. He has played extremely well, extremely competitive in some games. He has proven he can make good decisions, pretty accurate with the deep ball. He's a good game manager in some situations. It's just building a consistent flow of that and getting him the pieces. And it's a little late, like you said, because they're trying to do it now when they should have been doing it a few years back. But if they can surround him with some talent and, like I said, some protection on the offensive line, I think Sam Darnold could be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL.
Oh, definitely. Any strong opinions there over there, Tabor?
Yeah, I agree that he's very. I think that Sam Darnold could, like you said, be like a top 10 quarterback in this league if he had the pieces around him. I think as far as developing goes, now he has someone like Joe Flacco, who is a vet, maybe not like the best vet, but he's a vet that'll definitely help him develop, maybe teach him how to not get batted at the line every other throw. But he's definitely good to help him develop, but still, developing will get you how far when you have not that many pieces around you to really elevate your game. So, I mean, I guess we'll see, but I feel like after this year, I don't know how much more you can really do to help him out.
Yeah, and to your point, Joe Flacco is a great veteran presence to have, and with Adam Gase's job probably on the line this year, and just NFL fans are so impatient these days. And if Darnold doesn't start off pretty hot, I wouldn't be surprised if Flacco was the starter by middle of the season. I wouldn't be surprised if he did well and maybe revived his career as well down there. But I have a feeling that Darnold might not start all 16 games this season.
Whether it's injury or other circumstances where they just have to like start pulling people to try to make stuff work, just to throw things at the wall to make them stick.
Yeah,
I could see that happening. Now let's switch over to defense. Defensive line is probably their biggest strong suit on the team, with Quinnen Williams, Steve McClendon, Henry Anderson, Nathan Shepard, and Jabari Zuniga as some notable depth. They run that 3-4 Greg Williams kind of scheme, so their D-line is definitely going to be some of the bigger boys. So, I mean, they definitely have that kind of line they want. Quinnen Williams has kind of been a disappointment from being third overall pick, and he's going to be suspended because of the whole gun on a plane incident.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I can see this is their biggest bright spot. It used to be DBs, but we'll get to that. But now the D line is definitely, in my opinion, looking at this depth chart, definitely up there in the league just from a talent standpoint.
Yeah, I think looking at the Jets defensively, they definitely do have some talented players. Like you said, Quinnen Williams has been disappointing, but he can definitely bounce back. He was an early pick, definitely has the talent to do so. And like you said, they have depth. But when I'm looking at the two big talented guys they lost with C.J. Mosley opting out of the season from the coronavirus, and then obviously losing probably the best safety in the game right now, and Jamal Adams was just such a crusher for him. So when you lose two all-star elite talent like that on your defensive side of the ball, finding replacements for those guys and being able to compete at a high level on the defensive side of the ball, I think it's going to be a little challenging because they're not just great players, but they're probably two of your top leaders on the team as well.
Oh, yeah. And since C.J. Mosley opted out, linebackers here on mine have Harvey Lange at outside linebacker, and then Patrick Onwuser from Baltimore at inside linebacker, and then Avery Williamson and Jordan Jenkins. So they have, and Blake Cashman is a backup, Neville Hewitt, Terrell Basham, and Bryce Huff. So they have guys who are like backups on their teams, it's kind of like the story of the offensive line where Patrick, I suck at saying his last name, so I'm just not going to do it anymore. He was a backup on Baltimore, and then when Mosley left Baltimore, they were like, oh, is he going to step up and play? He kind of didn't. I know there was like a camp battle. I think he lost it. Now he's on the Jets and taking Mosley's spot when Mosley left the Jets because of the opt-out. So right. It's more of another scenario where he lost the battle to replace Mosley before, so he wasn't as good as the guy who's currently playing in Baltimore, and now he's going to have to take over the same job he did when he was in Baltimore and Mosley left. I'm not sure he can do that. Their linebackers outside of that are solid. Definitely run defending wise, their defense is solid. But I just don't think without Mosley, because you can see the difference how the defense operated. In week 1 when they faced the Bills, they were shutting us down. Mosley had a pick 6. Then he left in the second quarter with an knee injury. Then they started breaking and started bending and started giving up points. So Mosley was definitely a key to them doing good, especially up front in the front 7. So I want to see how they do, call wise, quarterback of the defense kind of wise, without him there, especially without Jamal Adams, who would have been the person to take his place in that role. Now he's gone as well.
Yeah, and like you said, Jamal Adams and Mosley were two of the biggest playmakers for him last season. The good news for that is that at least they had the time, so it's not like they suffered injuries in the middle of the season. It was a trade, it was an opt-out. They have some weeks to prepare heading into the regular season, and Greg Williams is a really good defensive mind, very aggressive play caller, so I feel like they have a timetable to find the players to fit those positions, fit those losses. But like I said, losing two guys like that is damaging, but at least they have training camp, a little bit of the off season before they get started to find guys to step up in the position and make plays.
Tabor, what does ESPN say for the defensive back depth charts? Because mine's a little weird, and I don't think it's correct.
They have it as they have it as left defensive end, then strong safety, then free safety, then right defensive back. After that, going top to bottom, and then from top to bottom, they have Pierre Desir, then Marcus May, then Bradley. I'm not gonna try and say that last name.
McDougal?
And then, and then Blesuan Austin. Did I say that right?
I don't. Oh yeah. See, I thought my mind because he's buried on this depth chart in mine.
Oh, I'm glad it's very different on yours compared to mine.
I'll just the safeties are the same. Marcus May and Brad McDougal are the starters. Brad McDougal came over from the Seahawks. Ashton Davis was a draft choice over there, so he's the backup to Marcus May, which a lot of people thought they drafted him to replace Marcus May, so they have to pay him, so that might be a scenario that's going to happen sometime soon, so they'll lose both their safeties from that draft. But looking at it, they actually have decent cornerback depth. They have, so mine, it says Pierre Desir is their number one, with Brian Poole at nickelback from Atlanta. And then they have Quincy Wilson from Indy, Blesuan Austin from, I think they drafted him. Then they have Javelin Guidry and Lamar Jackson, the other one, as well as Arthur Mollett. So they have at least 4 or 5 corners that can be could start, not per se do good starting, but they could be starting level, where you can put them out there and you won't be afraid they're gonna get totally torched on every play. They can definitely hold their own a little bit. So I mean, their DBs, okay, they're missing Jamal Adams, which is the big part we glossed over here, is they're missing Jamal Adams because they traded him. So now Brad McDougal's got to come in and be compared to Jamal Adams the entire season. So their defensive end or defensive backfield is missing that oomph they had, but it's a solid depth-wise core.
Yeah, I agree. I think that again, following that Jets page, they were talking a lot, of course, because they want to highlight the players, but they were talking a lot about Bradley, and they were talking about how what his strengths were in Seattle. And I mean, they did a good job of convincing me that he can go in and do well. But that being said, it's not Jamal Adams well. So of course they're still taking that hit. No one's gonna be Jamal Adams, let's be honest. Right. But he's still a very solid player, and it's not like he's gonna come in and be bad and get torched on every play. He's gonna be good for them.
I think the defensive success will also rely on how good the offense does. If they're punting 3 and outs a lot, because they have the talent on offense to sustain drives and move down the field. So if they can take the pressure off the defense, they probably have the talent and the depth to play well this season. But if they're going to be punting 3 and outs, turnovers, the defense is on the field a lot during the game and not getting the rest they needed, they'll bend and break. So
yeah, that's definitely a key, is that they need to be able to put together some offensive drives to not tire that defense out, for one, because they're going to win games this year. It's going to be on the strength of the defense. It's not going to be. It's not going to. They're going to win shootouts. They're going to win some low scoring, grind it out. Some 20-17 games. If that's probably going to be their high end ceiling there.
And they got a tough schedule. They played the Seahawks, 49ers. They got that division.
Right.
So I mean, they have the whole AFC East, but in general. So you're going to have good defense with the tough schedule they got.
Mm-hmm. So now moving over to another team that's going to need used strong defense to win their games last year. We're going to switch over to the New England Patriots now. This one is going to be a little weirder because half their team opted out. So we're going to see a lot of names we didn't see last year. Starting out with receivers, this part hasn't changed much. We have N'Keal Harry, Julian Edelman, Mohamed Sanu, Matthew Slater, Jacoby Myers as your notable receivers on there. So I mean, I think it's stronger than the Jets, just because the strength of Edelman and Harry and Sanu can get some stuff in there.
Yeah, Edelman and Sanu, I think, will definitely be the top 2 guys this year. But I mean, yeah, you talked about opt-outs. I believe they had the most players of any team opt out, and they're pretty big names, like Brandon Bolden, the running back, Patrick Chung, Dante Hightower. I mean, those are some pretty big losses on top of I think there's 6 or 7 more. But Edelman and Sanu, I think, will definitely be the top 2 targets. They definitely lost a lot of offensive firepower with the quarterback situation, and I mean all around, I don't think they're as strong as a team as they were in previous years. But I think it's definitely going to rely on which quarterback's going to start, and that's the exciting thing for me for this team this season, seeing if Cam's going to go from week one. But I see a lot of bumpy road for New England this season.
Who does ESPN pegged as their starter on their depth chart? Because mine has Cam Newton and Jared Stidham as the backup, but I want to know if ESPN.
Same.
All right, so yeah, because I know I was hearing talks, especially on like the Pat McAfee show, we're talking about how Cam isn't really being seen as a starter right now. They're splitting one rep, so I'm concerned that they're gonna stick with Stidham after signing Newton, and everyone's gonna make a big hoo-ha about it, and they're not actually gonna do it after all.
Oh, yeah, for mine, it just has Cam as one, then Stidham, then Hoyer. So,
Hoyer's not even an option.
Yeah, Hoyer was signed just to be like, okay, if we can't get anyone else, at least we have an old man that used to play for us.
Yeah.
We have like another quarterbacks coach, basically. Now, we did have, like you were talking about the opt-outs. I have the list of opt-outs here for them. They have Brandon Bolden, Marcus Cannon, Dan Vitale, Patrick Chung, Najee Toran, Marquise Lee, Deonta Hightower, Matt Lacoste, and I believe that's it for the opt-out. So it was like, I think it's 7? I noted on this one. So Marcus Cannon is a big one for their offensive line especially. So now their right tackle is, according to mine, I don't know what ESPN is saying, but according to mine, it's Corey Cunningham.
same.
Right guard, Shaquille Mason, David Andrews at center, Joe Tooney, and Isaiah Wynn. So the rest of the offensive line is still there. Isaiah Wynn, injury prone. Joe Tooney on the franchise tag. They're talking about trading him. Andrew Davis got hurt, or David Andrews got hurt last year. So, I mean, they're not the most stable at line. Like, it's a good line, but it can fluctuate easily. But they do have depth with Yannick Juice, who was a third-round pick. Tackle, Michael Onwenu, who was a fourth-round pick, I believe, this year, out of Michigan. So they have some depth, but their offensive line, especially right tackle, is shaky. And now they have to hope that everyone stays healthy or happy in the positions they're in to not want to either leave or get hurt and have to fill in with the depth they have.
Yeah, and that's the wish for any team, is that your offensive line or any position can stay healthy. But the reality is that there will be injuries. Like you said, it's a shaky group, but kind of like the New York Jets. But the benefit I got to give to New England is that they're much better coached. So no matter who goes out there, I think they'll be fully prepared, and they're probably going to make minimum mistakes. It's not the same firepower guys we're used to seeing. Even at the wide receiver position, they lost Philip Dorsett, which was he was a solid guy to have out there as well. So like I said, overall, they just so many big names gone, but you can't count out Bill Belichick, this coaching staff in general. I think they'll have the team ready to go, but they won't be 11, 12 wins like they're used to.
Yeah, they did bring in some. They did bring in some good weapons this year. Like, they brought in McCam, obviously, but they also drafted their. According to this thing, that's their 2 starting tight ends now, David Asiasi and Dalton Keene. Then the running backs are the normal Sony Michel, James White, and they have Damon Harrison, Rex Burkhead. But they also brought in Lamar Miller, so that could be someone who would fight for some reps. So they brought in some weapons to compensate, but I don't think it. They focus more on the run game, kind of ground and pound style. And they said they're not going to be adjusting their offense to Cam. So I remember when there was a big complaint when Cam was in Carolina. They were trying to make him, or I'm sorry, it was with Matt Stafford. But the Matt Stafford is similar to Cam. They both have the big arm, want to launch it. And then they were trying to make Matt Patricia was trying to make Matt Stafford do like little dink and dunk passes the Patriots use in their offense. Now Cam's going to be in that offense, and they said they're not going to be changing it all that much, which I'm not sure if I believe that. But if that holds true, I don't know how well he's going to fit into a small, like, dink and dunk, short pass, medium ranged, where he's going to just try to have to be precise with good timing and stuff instead of being able to either make plays with his legs and then launch it like he did in Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be smoke screens that they're throwing up, that they're not going to adjust the system to him. I think it would be smart for them to make the scheme fit. I mean, Cam obviously was one of the best players in the NFL once upon a time. He has Super Bowl experience. And this is a big chance for him to rejuvenate and revive his career on a very well-coached football team that has a rich history. So I wouldn't completely center this new offense around Cam Newton, but I think they would be smart to fit in more plays than not to fit his style. And if they don't, Cam strikes me as someone who will freelance and to do his thing, scramble, make plays happen, and make it fit to his style if he needs to.
That's fair. Now flipping over to what they were known for last year, their defense, which took a big hit with those opt-outs we talked about earlier. Not really much on the D-line. Lawrence Guy, Bo Allen, John Simon, Chase Winovich, Dietrich Wise Jr., Adam Butler, same D-line they had last year. No real big hits there. Linebacker, though, they have Shalik Calhoun, because they lost a bunch of people in free agency, too. Not only did they lose opt-outs, they lost a lot of starters in free agency on defense.
Kyle Van Noy, a big one, yeah.
Yeah, so they have Shalik, we'll get to him in a couple minutes. Shalik Calhoun is their starting linebacker with Josh Uche, who they drafted behind him, so that's going to be a battle. Then the two middle linebacker spots, because this is one has him as running the 3-4, is the same player. So they only have two other backups behind him. So middle linebacker is thin, especially if you're running two middle linebackers. And then Brandon Copeland with Anthony Jenkins as their other linebacker. So their linebacker core has thinned out immensely, and they're just putting a lot of eggs in the rookie basket, or like what they do best. They draft rookies in the later rounds, and they bring guys in that other teams cast off and try to make them work, which they've proven they can in the past. But will it catch up to them eventually is what I'm trying to see.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, this team is known for finding those late. I mean, Tom Brady was drafted so late in his day, and this team is known for finding those gems late in the draft. I think actually they have more success with their late picks than their earlier picks. And then they bring these guys in that other teams kind of give up on, like you mentioned, Lamar Miller. I thought he was a phenomenal talent in Miami. Didn't really get going in Houston. So I have no doubt that I think Lamar will come over and have a great season at the running back position. And then, like you said, their linebacker core is thin. Their defensive depth is a little bit thin. But like you said, they bring these guys, they draft these guys late. The coaching staff from Bill Belichick all the way down is just elite.
It's phenomenal.
Too smart, phenomenal what they do. So I don't have any issues, or I don't foresee any issues for a young team or a team that lacks depth. I have complete trust in the coaching staff that those guys are ready to go.
Yeah.
How are the linebackers, how are they placed in your depth chart?
So it just said, it doesn't give them like outside linebacker or inside linebacker. It just says linebacker 4 times down. And it says Shalik Calhoun and then Jawan Bentley, Brandon Copeland. So it just has Jawan Bentley twice in the middle linebacker spots. I'm assuming it's middle linebacker because it's in the middle of the 4 of them. And then the defensive backfield, we already know they have Defensive Player of the Year and Jason McCourty at corner, Devin McCourty at safety, they have guys that'll be able to step up. I'm never worried about, especially with defensive backs. I'm never worried about the Patriots. So even guys you'll never hear of will come in and be starters. But they have Jonathan Jones, who was good last year and was on, I believe he's the guy from the Texans that was kind of older. So I mean, they're gonna have playmakers, no matter who they have back there, basically.
Who's starting a strong safety for you right now?
I think it's the guy from the Jets. They let him go. It is Terrence Brooks, it says.
Oh, for me it has Adrian Phillips.
See, that's their backup. On this one, it has their backup free safety. So, I mean, like I said, they have a lot of people they can just put in and play wherever. They'll make it work. They're the Patriots. They've always made it work. They'll make it work again.
Well, how many wins do you think they get this year?
Ooh, that's tough because you trust their coaching staff a lot, but how much can their coaching staff do with the limitations they have now? Because they've had limitations before, but they've always had some place where you're like, okay, they're really strong there. Like, oh, quarterback, they have MVP quarterback. If you have an MVP quarterback and great coaching staff, you're gonna make something work. They have a great defense. They don't need to score a lot of points to win games. But now you have questions on defense and questions on offense, and the coaching staff can only do so much. They can't go out there and play the football themselves. So, based on just they know their division well enough that I think they'll be able to eke out like a couple wins there. They're not going to go bottom out. So I probably think like their floor is like 5 or 6 wins. Their ceiling's probably like 9, 10 maybe, if they really put everything together.
All right.
I saw a rumor that since everyone was opting out on the Patriots, that it was like, oh, what if Bill Belichick is just telling all these starters to opt out this year to save a year on their contract, so that way they can just tank for Trevor Lawrence, and then next year they'll be good with an extra contract. I was like, that would make sense, but at the same time, why go sign Cam then and just run with Jared Stidham if you're going to tank that way?
Yeah, that would be a Bill Belichick thing to do, but yeah, they brought in Cam. But like you said, the coaching staff is so good, but they're not the ones who can go out there and play. So there's only so much they can do.
Right.
9-win ceiling at 9 is that's still a little low. I think the division is still not so strong with the Jets and Dolphins in it, and like I said, they do play like Seattle and San Francisco and tough teams like that. So I'm gonna go in the middle and say like 8-8.
Yeah, I can see that. I know Colin Cowherd had like 5-11 in this past thing, and I was like, what do you know? I don't think they're gonna be that low. Like I'd say like if like code red, everything happens, Brian Hoyer is starting halfway through the season, they can still eke out like 5 wins. But I think they can max out 9-10 and they're still in conversation for the division, obviously. Right. I think they'll be able to, if everything goes for them right, like there's not major injuries to major positions to their key starters they still have, they could go 9-10 wins. I'm not saying they're gonna go 6, but like I said, if anything, if like code red, everything's going to hell, they could still probably win just because of the coaching staff they have.
Yeah, and not just for the Patriots, but for every team in the league. Like you don't, just with the whole COVID protocols, like some teams are allowing 15-20% capacity, so some fans will be there. Some teams won't have fans, pumping in crowd noise, just the whole atmosphere. And I mean, to me, fans and just having like a regular season definitely impacts the way games shape. So for the teams not having fans, I don't know what the Patriots are doing exactly, but for the teams not having fans, where they travel, there will be some fans, some games, some fans, no games. Just the atmosphere in general, I think, will have a major impact on games in general too.